It's good to see everybody. Glad to have a chance to talk with you, at least for a few minutes, and share some of our perspective. So the goal, think about technology supporting your client, increasing their valuation. So not a lot of technology folks. Anybody in technology in the crowd here at all? So not a lot. That's kind of what I expected. So my goal here is just maybe share some thoughts from our perspective and the clients that we work with. And Lance actually has an interesting case study on a client that went through the sale process, was ready to exit, and then ran into a lot of issues through the process and what we had to do to help them. So improve awareness, ask better questions, know where to get help. Those are all great goals. Go ahead and click it. Okay, so let me give you a little bit from my perspective where I've been. So kind of past, present, future. So started my career in the Air Force. Was here, assigned to Scott Air Force Base, a couple other locations, and then exited, went into industry. So I came into the Air Force doing software development. Okay, so I went out into the industry, worked on the commercial side for about 8 years, doing software development again, working with companies here in St. Louis, and formed another company with a partner of mine at that time after about 12 years in the industry. So we had grown the business on the commercial side. We worked with another federal contractor, and we decided a great idea would be to merge these companies and create more value for our clients. So we then, after launching that firm, sold that firm. Technically, we did sell. It was kind of a similar size merger with those two firms at the same time. So we pulled a government contractor, and we were all commercial at the time, merged those together. So a lot of integration work, right? So we went from 2 business partners to 4 business partners and owners, so lots of culture and clash and ego and all kinds of challenges there. And then we sold that after about 2 years to a more global firm that had offices across the US and a couple in India, which I think sparked some of, that was more an assimilation, right? So we weren't really integrating and feeling the love as much as we were being sucked into the larger firm and how do you operate, right, inside of that structure. And then, about 1.5 years ago, I decided to launch another firm again. So a split off of the large company, that's what got us to the domestic outsourcing services model. So they were very global. We're here today to kind of do things a little differently, leverage some of the veteran-owned side of my background, leverage some locations. We have an office in Cape Girardeau, which that's our rural market, where we try to look at pushing work, jobs, and opportunities down there. So I'm going to have to, see if we get a little battery. So through that process, especially on that first company launch, we had a concept of go liquid. So my business partner and I would kind of look at each other and say, what's our go liquid number, right? Where are we today with how we're growing? So we had a great synergy with that, and I think that equates really well to exit planning. The concept of constantly looking at just our numbers and our measurements and where are we, and we did that all the time. That wasn't something that we sort of tucked away and said, let's revisit it on a 5-year plan. I'm not saying we maybe did it daily, but guaranteed every month, for sure every quarter, we were looking at that and saying, how strong are we where we are? So the exit strategy sort of concept and kind of as a standard operating procedure is sort of how our mantra and mentality was. So I think it bodes well to hopefully what your clients are facing and our experiences with that. So go ahead. So here's a little interesting slide. So 5 signs your clients maybe aren't driving with technology. The first one, you can't close your Q1 financials until the next fiscal year. There may be more issues than just technology, right, with that. Next one. So PCI is a boy band. Your definition of collaboration is endless email. The mobile strategy is stopping at the Cadillac dealer and looking at the new 2016 models. And cloud platform means I need to play golf only on sunny days. So I like the last one the best. So how can we help drive technology and what do we need to think about? So go ahead, Jacob. So if we threw this into 3 buckets, right, of what typically comes up in conversation, It might be some, I can't do this with my phone, I'm thinking cloud, but they always kind of fall typically in these three buckets. So finance and KPIs, right? How am I doing and what do I need to measure? What's important to me? Collaboration, how am I communicating with my offices, my people, internally, externally? And then CRM, right? So what do I know about my customers, my data? How do I understand and better leverage that to keep growing or do better with the existing customers that I've got? So go ahead. So looking at the first piece, right? Financial. So critical aspect, obviously, you guys, most of everybody in the team here with us, we work with on the other side are in financials in some way, shape, or form. So not a lot of new information here that we're going to share, but are they timely, accurate, responsive, thorough? Are they secure, right? Are we using technology to make sure we're leveraging the best of what we've got so we don't make it more cumbersome on us so we can then do other things, right, with the basics? So synthesis of data is key here, right? So am I taking analytics and business intelligence measures? So am I digging into what I know or what I don't know about how I'm operating and how I'm performing to try to leverage that? So a great example, and Lance uses this one a lot, is if you've seen that, I think it's Zurich Insurance, the golf commercial where the golfer is standing about 150 yards out, there's wind, there's a lake, the green is just past the lake, and you've got a blimp in the air, you've got an announcer, you've got his caddy, and you've got one of the mobile kind of announcers, spot announcers up by the green. So he's getting information from the announcer, the caddy's synthesizing this together. From the blimp, from the announcer, from this person at the green, and he's synthesizing all that together, and he's about to pull out the wrong club, and he checks him and says, no, it's a 9. So he goes with a 9, puts it on the green, performs well. So that's a great example of, there's a lot of synthesis of that data and the tools with technology. How are you improving? How are you learning? How are you growing from that? So go ahead. So KPIs, just a random list, not to read off that list, but what's important to you? So important to us is we look at utilization and billable rates and time. It may be labor cost per unit, units manufactured, or defects per whatever, right? For us, it may be defects per 1,000 lines of code if we're looking at developing a custom solution for someone. So collaboration. So 3 buckets, right? So the first piece, finance, KPI, collaboration is the second one. So when you're pulling this together, how easy is it to share this information? So I think it was probably about 10 or 12 years ago, I remember having a cell phone in its infancy, and all I did was stick in a last name, and I was able to pull up that phone number. And I thought that was pretty cool stuff, right? That was crazy technology. We hit the same database that I used in the office to pull up the contact information. I'm in my car, probably at that time the concept of texting and mobile wasn't even a clue where it is today and how dangerous it is, but I'm at stoplight, texting my phone, very simple technology, but how convenient was that when we had a rainy day like this and this morning, to try to think about how do I collaborate, how do I get access to information when I need it? Is it accessible, right? So is it available on that cell phone? Is that even something I have as an option for my employees and my staff? And what does that leverage me in terms of speed and decision making and being able to pull the team? And thinking externally, right, when we were acquired, what did that do, or what did that company think when they were looking at us and say, how well are we performing, and how quickly can we make decisions, and how nimble can we be? Because they were basically, right, through that evaluation process, we probably narrowed it down to 3 or 4 potential buyers for us, and if we really showed that we were fast, quick, nimble, we could move, we could change, they had their own agendas, their own marketing programs, their own things that they wanted us to sort of morph into, and we could show that flexibility by really collaborating well on a mobile platform and sharing our information. So, excuse me, go ahead. So the final bucket, if you will, is all the sales data, right? So CRM. So what am I doing to leverage who I have worked with and what I know and what my past performance is as well too. So that was certainly key, going through the process of sort of collecting and figuring out, okay, so we've done all this work for the last 12 years. How are we collecting this together and showing someone what we did? And that's a painful process, right? So using tools, leveraging technology. The last point is really interesting, especially on the CRM side. A light capital commitment is so easy, and it's so mature on the CRM side of things that you can use cloud technologies and really leverage what's out there to create that mobile sales force, right? So having your cell phone and having a tremendous amount of data and accessibility there is definitely a differentiator that most people are doing, and which is great. It's just that needs to continue to just mature and reinforce that. And when you roll them all together and you look at the finance and the KPIs, look at how you're collaborating, look at the customer data, when you pull those pieces together, you really create some unique differentiation. If I were going through that process and going to sell and I had a year delay, and knowing the sales cycle, that what it took for that particular project was probably 6 to 9 months ahead of that, that's an awfully painful process, right? So we have an agenda, and it's introduced technology early and often into the conversation. So that just is a sort of a telling tale of how long some of the pause and the resetting and the cleaning up actually took. So we have a scripted example. It's very small. You can certainly augment that, which would be great. If you have a real client situation, that would be even better. So kind of your table decides if you work together and have a presenter. And if you don't have paper, you've got technology, right? So take some notes, come up with some questions. You've got something there. So let's go ahead and click the next slide, if you will. So maybe, I don't know if that's readable from you guys, or we could blow that up a little bit as well too. If we use that, yeah. Scroll down, just, yeah, okay, that helps a little bit. So current situation, we've got any manufacturing company. We just met with the CEO, toured the facility, learned that obviously we want to grow sales, yet the company is challenged with quick decision making. So I want to grow sales, but where do I do it? How do I do this? So I'm thinking back to my financials, KPIs, collaborate, CRM, customer data. So the CEO wants to we've got 5 locations. So we've got 4 in the US, and we've got 1 offshore as well too, somewhere. Doesn't have to be in any location. So CEO is suggesting that a typical customer has really great relationships with these pockets, right? So we've got these 4 locations, great relationships, great sort of synergy in that market, but maybe not necessarily across the board, right? So I want to expand the client base. I want to take my main product line, and I want to know if operations can meet the demands that's going to be generated. And obviously, CFO, everything costs too much. Costs are going through the roof. Everything is too much. How do we support our systems? Our costs are increasing there. IT demand, obviously, it's increasing. So your next questions relating to IT to help them through this might be, and obviously you're not in the IT industry. We don't expect you to be experts and dive into any platform, but just thinking out loud, right? How could IT help or drive some questions? So what comes to mind from your perspective that you could do to help this customer? So just kind of work at your table. We'll give it, 15 minutes or so, something like that, and try to brainstorm a little bit, so sort of work together. If anybody at your table has a specific client in mind, that you say, hey, look, I know a great scenario that we're working through right now. Throw that out on the table, and let's throw that one out. It's certainly better than our canned ABC manufacturing if you have something real life. So let's get started. Our first, are you going to do it? Presenter is going to be Jim. So Jim is our volunteer. Can we come up and we'll kind of go through your thoughts and what you guys talked about? So
we had identified a small CPA firm in West County who the business owner, the founding partner, is 74 years old, an incredibly paper-based environment, high turnover, paying a lot of money in rent, and I think the nature of the problem is there was so much paper and so much clutter that accountants that would come into that shop would eventually end up leaving over frustration with their ability to do their job. We also talked about the amount of money that was being spent housing all these file folders or file cabinets full of file folders, and the square footage that it's absorbing, and the rent that they're paying for this. And I think the key is to eliminate that frustration, reduces rent, and to automate not only the customer experience but also the accountant's experience in-house would be to, bite the bullet, clear out his files, scan the image, a lot of those current and relevant documents that pertain to his clients. The guy's 74, he's looking to get out of the business, so the clock is ticking on his time frame to make these things happen.
Where's he at right now with what you've uncovered? Where are they at today?
It's either write the check or just
Continue?
or walk away.
Gotcha.
And just the business will implode because there really won't be any infrastructure to support it.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Good insight. So, yeah, very painful. So kind of a collaboration to me that falls into the second bucket, right? We've got lots of stuff, lots of data, lots of information, and it just is so painful trying to work with someone and support them from a finance perspective.
Well, we have
Makes
to
it
also
difficult.
determine if the value of this business is something that's going to be, it's going to add to his retirement picture. I don't really know what his asset picture is.
Mm-hmm.
I do know what he's insured for.
Yeah.
But
It's
so it's a challenge because it's either write the check for unknown or walk away, and but I think there's some value there.
right. Great. Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Okay, next, you guys want to go?
We used the case study that
Okay.
you guys had up there.
Great.
We really just came down to, we had a ton of questions. So we don't have any real major solutions yet for these guys, but we sort of broke it down into three things. Number one was sort of start, if the goal was to increase sales, start with an assessment of the sales cycle. And look at the sales cycle from what is the IT needs, hardware and software, what are they doing to capture the data, and is the data the right data to be capturing? Are there decisions we could be making off of that? In the sales cycle, we've also got to look at the people and sort of low tech, and are the sales people the right people to be making sales? Are they good? So if we've got great technology, great tools, but dopes using it, what do you get out of that? The next assessment was looking at the management tools, since that was one of the key things they were looking at. Slow decision making is, what is your management reporting? So one of our suggestions is ultimately going to lead to some sort of CRM system, maybe something that's like Salesforce or Force.com, where you can have both CRM and sales data at the same time as management reporting off of that, sort of the same platform. All along the way with the CFO worried about cost, trying to understand what we can actually do to increase sales, but also increase the bottom line. And the third thing was, if we do increase all these sales and have better management reporting systems, can we make the product, right? So then having a major assessment of sort of the making of things side, right? So look at all of the various facilities they have. Is the equipment up to date? Is it outdated? Does it need maintenance? Can we react if we have a sales force that's out there selling? As far as IT came, Sarah has a couple of interesting clients that are actually using some new technology inside of manufacturing that is attaching, I don't know exactly, sensors to the different items that are on the manufacturing floor in different areas of the manufacturing floor to get instant feedback into management systems on move times and lead times and product turnover and product obsolescence, how long it's on the shelf, and all that sort of stuff. So that's sort of another IT suggestion we had for the manufacturing side of stuff.
No, it's great, good stuff. I think a lot of, from the case study, obviously by design, it's meant to do that, so a lot of assumptions can be made, right? Can I even determine what I'm doing now to even get better from an operational perspective, and assuming that the sales force is talented, right? So a lot of assumptions that go into that if you keep diving in deeper and deeper and deeper into it, so it's good stuff. Thank you, Drew.
Thanks.
All right, you guys want to?
We kind of talked about our own kind of case study a little bit. We looked at, I guess,
the need to get the team together, the key players, the accounting people, the IT people, the marketing people, have them sit down and talk about what it is that we can use, how we can use technology to better help solve these problems that this company is having. But one of the things that we talked about specifically, since there's a couple of accountants at the table, is how you can use cloud-based accounting nowadays, and how it really helps automate the process and gives you data, live access to live data. One of the things we mentioned that we're seeing a lot of small businesses either if they don't have the back office, or the back office isn't working effectively, what they're moving to is this cloud-based QuickBooks program. Also coupling that with some other modules such as Bill.com. And what you're able to do with that, inside that cloud-based accounting system, you're able to send out your invoices electronically. So all of the data is done electronically, nobody having to key all that information in. You're able to, through BillPay.com, you're able to have your vendors send their invoices in electronically. And so it all uploads into the system instantaneously. You don't have to, again, worry about, keying issues, or it's sitting in somebody's basket for a week before it gets entered into the system. It's instantaneous. You can review that information on your phone, on your laptop, approve those payments, and the vendor gets paid a lot easier, a lot quicker. So that's one of the motivations for them to send that in electronically to you. And at the end of the day, when you go to run a report on any particular day, today, March 9th, March 10th, you want to run a P&L, it's accurate. Because all of your invoices, all of your receivables, all of your sales, everything's done in the system. So it's just a way to be able to keep up to date on your KPI. So.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you threw that in there, and I comment on that next after this section of the presentation. But one thought that just struck me: we had on our acquisition, when we were acquired by that larger firm, we had a 3-year earn-out process, and we had probably not moved any piece of equipment back in support. They sort of left us alone to operate as our own unit, but that was the last thing that happened. We did not touch a single server or environment for them. And people move on, right? You've got lots of agendas and priorities, and you just kind of left it alone. But a painful process in the end when we want to diversify again and split off, and who owns what, where, and how. So the cloud piece solves a lot. It makes it a lot simpler, right? So great, thanks, great input. So these guys.
I'll talk. And we talked about a specific client that I'm working with right now. It's a very, very small client. And the scenario, it's in the insurance industry, and it's an independent agent who works through a super agency, I want to call them. They actually book all of their business through the super agency, and the super agency has the relationship with the carriers. Well, the independent agent died. We needed to move that portfolio really quickly, and we thought we could. We thought we could do it like that, and so we looked for super agencies to buy that, and we've actually identified several. The one that made the first offer came in the best offer for due diligence, and they said, we're going to do due diligence in 5 days, and here are the questions we need answered. The biggest question that we were stumped on was the client list. We want a list of clients and policies by the date that they will renew, so that they could see what their opportunity was for booking this portfolio of business. What turned out, we're sitting here today. I mean, yesterday afternoon I had a conversation on how we get the client data, names, addresses, and renewal dates. And it comes down to a question of, in a scenario like that, who really owns the data? Where's the data stored? Who has passwords? Who can get onto what system? Who will or won't download a machine-readable file? Because the buyer is saying, we are only interested, they're threatening to back out if we get a machine-readable file. And we've got like boxes and boxes and boxes of paper, but they don't want to, the super agency doesn't want to deal with the paper. So this situation is so dire that the deal may be lost. I mean, it just may be lost.
So 5 days was the objective. How long is gone on now? It's been,
He died the week of Thanksgiving. We thought we were going to have this deal closed the first week of January.
Okay.
And we're still fiddling around trying to find, and I'll tell you, here's what else is happening. Anyone who's in the insurance business knows this, is the bigger complication is certain carriers are no longer rebooking with independent agencies, so we know it's running off. And we're probably 5 months into this now, where we thought we would have this thing all wrapped up in about 5 weeks. So for many reasons, we may not have anything to sell.
Right.
And there may be something for the super agency to salvage out of it, but we know that the offer that was initially made is not a good offer anymore because we know that's running off. So it is really a systems issue, because had we been able to pull the data they needed for due diligence in a quick and efficient way, it would be over and the deal would be closed. But we can't prove out the paper on the floor.
Right.
And they want machine readable. They don't really want the paper.
right. Great. Thank you. That's great. Great example of sharing a situation where, the whole thing could certainly fall through. So let me share a couple thoughts here. So kind of some key questions, takeaways, right? So the point is very valid. You could keep diving and diving and diving, but so how many hours did it take to produce that report or monthly report, right? Or there is none. So what do we listen for? Really, I don't know. Or it's taking me more than 10 days, or it's taking me a month. So is it difficult to get this information out of your accounting package? What would you like to see? What kind of capabilities are there? Sort of the Internet of Things, right? That's a great comment. If I've got devices sitting through a manufacturing process, what would I like to get out of that? I'd like to tie that, integrate that to what's happening on the operations side. So really interesting ways to get data now. What am I sharing with my customers? I guess in your example, right? Who is my customer, right? I don't even know who they are. They're a piece of paper in a folder somewhere that I may or may not be able to organize and get and share. So, and am I sharing KPIs internally? And are you willing to invest the time, money, and effort to do this? So, this worked when I was close. So on the collaboration side, kind of the same theme, right? So, what am I listening for? So when I'm talking about this, and I talk to customers, so can I easily get access to the information? And I may or may not, so I don't know. Do I use a portal? How do I pull that information together, right? So any type of devices, or in that example, if we're monitoring things, we've got to have a way to aggregate that and see what's happening. Where are you getting your data from? How do you access performance data, marketing data? So listening for manual steps, right? You got some manual steps going on, certainly that you're hearing and your customers do. It's just that's part of real life. So, and what cloud technology are you using? And if you don't understand cloud, what is it? Certainly it's extremely prevalent on the next piece. But on the finance piece, it's becoming more and more common and accepted to trust that and set up your own private and dedicated cloud scenario where you have that off-premise and it's dedicated to what you're doing. So the security that Lance mentioned obviously is a huge concern. However, that's maturing more and more and more. And we're partnered with Microsoft, Oracle, and IBM, and each one of those have their own platforms on cloud that they're driving businesses to. So they're constantly just trying to leverage every single product that's out there that's on-premise today. A few of our clients, just typically run like Dynamics, Great Plains, and Navision, and if they're out there on-premise, guaranteed there's 50 people behind somewhere at Microsoft trying to figure out how do we get them on the cloud and get them off of that server install that's happening locally. So you can hit the next one. So on the CRM side, obviously you mentioned Salesforce and Force.com as a platform. So some of those pieces like Force.com is an entire platform around that. So it provides a kind of a rapid application development way to get stuff done, and kind of the core of it is your customer data, right? And I'm building things on top of that. So we've done some Force.com work that's kind of interesting, but that's way more mature, right, on a CRM side than any of these other buckets and pieces. But that's great, and on the CRM side, if that person that you're working with just had a simple account at Salesforce.com, or there's tons of them, little lower scale ones that are even free, would save a lot of that. So You're listening for a stovepipe, no visibility into metrics, what happens on peak times, just who our customers are, kind of the bare bones basics of just who am I working with, which is sometimes cumbersome, and what have we done with them, right? That past performance data that you're trying to do. And obviously, are you willing to spend time, money, and effort? And they may not be, right? It may be too late. It just may be, I'm done. I've got my paper stack, paper trail, and I'm you know, the situation that you're struggling with there, right? So. Go ahead, Jacob. So key question takeaway, if you analyze that into KPIs and metrics and finance and collaboration and the CRM data, if you remember talking smack, that's a quick way to sort of, you know, digest what you're talking. So social, mobile, analytics, and cloud, right? Those are topics. So talk smack, if you keep coming back, every one of those kind of has a bucket of, is the social side, obviously, that's a little squishy, right? What am I doing from a social media perspective, right, for marketing? But the mobile analytics and cloud, they all kind of fall in, and that's a great little acronym to remember for how you might just think at the end of the day, what are we talking about with our customers? So how would you get, obviously, if you've got my contact information through the slides, through what we do, if there's something we can do to help you drive a conversation or help someone, I'd certainly throw in myself, Lance, obviously, to have a call to talk about what that means. And yeah, it's typically with us when we see scenarios like this or like that example, it always takes 3 times the amount of time, right? Because there's a process involved in the background, and there's people and there's attitudes, opinions. So it becomes a psychological component of how do I wrap my head around doing this as a business owner and trying to work through a process that I don't understand. So Lance has done a lot of his PhD work around just the people and process side of things. So how do you get more performance and improvement? We're doing some things with teams and team building and things like that try to help. So service disabled, veteran owned, value focused, that's kind of what we're all about. So there's some slides in the end to take away. And I believe you'll share these, right? They'll be on the website to share. So we are aligned Microsoft, Oracle, IBM. Next slide. So this is kind of what we're about, what we do. So we do these things helping customers. We typically work St. Louis, Minneapolis, and our off-site office is in Cape Girardeau. So that's our rural domestic offering, right? So we're growing, building, finding talent there that's outside of the St. Louis market, trying to build that in a community where we can lower cost, and we can find good, long-term, sticky employees to help us grow and build that technology practice. So, Jacob? So anyway, great to have the conversation with you. Any questions or thoughts, I'd certainly hang around or ask them now if you have any, and appreciate the time. Thank you. Thanks.